Welcome back to Art Equals Life. I'm your host, JT Dubs.
And I am co-host Moose.
I'm John Higgins.
That's not your name. It's Higgs, you bitch.
Oh, no.
Remember your name, Higgs. It's Higgs. You can't change it back. It's your birth name.
His name is John Higgins.
You could just bleep me out.
And his name is John Cena.
All right, how's everybody doing tonight?
I'm all right.
I'm doing pretty peachy, man.
Oh, no, not very peachy this summer because of climate change.
Whoa, Higgs is getting political already. I love it.
Oh, shit.
So, one thing about summer, though, we do know it's hot, but another thing about summer is that we get a lot of video game announcements. And, you know, it's funny because E3 didn't happen this year. I think E3 is just permanently dead at this point. But we still basically got an E3 because, like, in June, we had a bunch of game announcements. And I feel like the gaming sphere, like that whole industry right now is kind of booming. It's been a really good year for games. Unlike the film industry, it's not completely crashing and burning. And, you know, we even got like an announcement of this like Activision Blizzard, purchase, I guess, by Microsoft. They now own the company, or they're in the process of buying it. And so it'll be kind of interesting to see how that affects Xbox and Microsoft sort of down the line. But overall, we just got a lot of like game announcements, and there's a lot of games coming out, and it's been a really good year for gaming. So, y'all, what are your thoughts on just sort of like how things have been going this summer, just all the game announcements and where you're feeling with the game industry right now as a whole?
So I watched the Nintendo Direct. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I was not happy. There was like a Mario game, and I was like, oh, thank fuck. Another Mario game. I'm cool with that. And then just a bunch of remasters.
Yeah.
Just kind of goes back to that whole nostalgia thing. Like, grow up. Time for something else.
Well, you know, Moose, if you want people to grow up, maybe a Nintendo Direct is not the place to go for that. Given that, like, as a whole, the company mostly just makes things people are nostalgic for. And I'm 100% guilty of it. As I've said, I'm a Nintendo shill.
I mean, I get that.
I mean, even then, though, like, I can admit you're right on that, though. For me, though, it's not really, you know, with gaming, I feel like so much of it is these franchises that people have known for a while, and they're constantly building on the next game, and each game sort of advances the formula a little bit more, or maybe it gets worse. But I don't know. I feel like to me the issue is not so much that a lot of the same franchises are going on from when we were younger. I think the issue is just that they keep like trying to modernize every game formula, but they're doing it all in the exact same way. And we've all talked about this together, like off the podcast. But anyone ever noticed that like every game is open world now, and we're pretty much just making every game Skyrim now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's like Skyrim came out, I think 12 years ago. And I mean, hey, it was revolutionary in certain ways, and you know, a lot of people loved it. And it's never been a game I've been super into, but I could definitely respect what it did.
Yeah, it was nothing like Skyrim until Skyrim came out, and then everybody's minds was freaking blown. And
watch your language, Moose.
Yeah, right. I'm so sorry. And, you know...
This is a children's podcast, Moose.
E for everyone. We'll go that far. I wouldn't say children's, but just trying to work on the swearing.
No, this is going on YouTube Kids.
We won't be able to compete with Miss Rachel. I'm sorry.
True.
But, you know, and then everything else has just, you know, become a copycat, but in their own way. And it's not really working for them. Elden Ring, okay, sure. I can understand why they would try to do it with Elden Ring. But there was just way too much. Or, I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom yet.
Yeah.
But I've heard that even though it's a great game, I've heard it's very open world.
Well, let me rant on it real quick, because I've been playing it quite a bit. Tears of the Kingdom is a good game, and I'll say this: I think it's probably the most mechanically advanced Zelda game in terms of just the core game mechanics, how they all interact together. The building stuff, the fusing stuff, going up through the ceilings, rewinding stuff. Very mechanically advanced, and the way that those mechanics all play together into the game's physics system, really brilliant stuff. Really well made. I really like the game as a whole, but something about the design of the game, and this goes along well with everything's open world now, but the design is the way the game is designed is very similar to the way that Breath of the Wild was designed, and also similar to how Mario Odyssey was designed. And it's sort of like Nintendo is trying to do this like open world format with a lot of their bigger games. I think it even kind of happened with the newest Pokemon game, but it's cool that it's advancing in a lot of ways, and I like that. But what I don't like is that they're really focusing on quantity over quality when it comes to game design. They want to create a million different little things you can do in the game, little objectives that, definitely pad out the game. They give you a big like open world map to deal with, and it's cool. I like that it's big. I like that there's a lot to do. But I'm not really the type of gamer personally that's going to put 900 hours into a game or whatever. Like that's just not me. Unless it's Tetris 99, I'll just play Tetris forever. That's always great. But I'd just rather have a more compact, better designed experience, because a lot of these missions and little things to do in the game are just copy paste. You go into the sky, and a lot of the sky islands have a lot of the exact same content copy pasted in each region. And same with the depths, like the area down below. A lot of that's copy pasted as well. And then the main map, like the ground level of the game, is the same map as Breath of the Wild. And they changed a lot of stuff, and it feels very different, and that's great. But it is still the same world and a lot of the same landmarks and like some of the similar objectives. And I haven't, I think I've only played the game maybe 30 hours, so I haven't gotten super, super far. But so far, I'm already noticing 30 hours in repetition, a lot of the same. And that's how I felt with Mario Odyssey. It's how I felt with Breath of the Wild. And it's like they have great mechanics. The games feel great to play, despite the Switch being underpowered. I think they look good. I think the graphics are really nice. But I don't know. I don't think that going open world and focusing on quantity over quality is really the way to make games. Old video games were shorter. There was less to do. But because there was less to do and they wanted to take up more of your time and not, they didn't want the game to only last 5 hours. They wanted you to play it for weeks and months and whatever. I mean, they made sure that there was enough stuff in there to pad out the game, but they also made sure it was all like designed pretty well and wasn't super fillery. And I guess I just feel like there's too much filler in video games now. They're all trying to compete for your time, and they just want too much of your time. And I'd rather just have fun, honestly. So that's where I'm at.
That quantity over quality thing is a great way to describe the new game world. And I think it's a whole cheap route, if that makes any sense. And I'm not talking about financial. I'm not talking about it's like money when I say cheap. I'm talking about laziness. I feel like a lot of games nowadays have a lot of open worlds because they don't want to put any time and effort to make more to do in the game. They think if they make the game open world, that's their way of making it to where there's more to do in the game. But then, some people get fucking tired of playing basic ass games all the time now. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the reason why I noticed some people like the nostalgic old childhood games that we grew up with is because of the challenges that they threw in the games that made them hard, that made you get that sense of accomplishment after you beat it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like nowadays a lot with the new games is that it's all cheese. It's all easy peasy lemon freaking squeezy. I feel like it just is boring.
Something that I would add to that is, I think the biggest thing is, you're talking about quantity over quality with this sort of attitude. But I think another factor is they all tend to feel the same. If you look at really old school kind of quest based games like, Mario 64, all of the little missions that they would give you to, get the star, they all felt very distinctive.
Hmm.
And I feel like if you don't have any variety in all of your different fetch quests, it's going to feel very repetitive real quick.
Well, they also just used to do a lot with very little. Those old games, they had teams of people working on them that were in single digits or just barely double digits. You'd have 5 people working on a game, 10 people working on a game. And a lot of times the person that did the sound effects also did the music. I mean, it was very consolidated and very small because it was only a small number of programmers actually making the games. And, they were definitely working within smaller boundaries. And so they had to make sure that whatever they were putting out there was really good and really fun and felt really good, because that was all people were going to play. They weren't going to, the original Zelda game from 1986, I think, it's just like one giant square. You pretty much walk around. The map is not that big, but they put so much stuff to do in there. It's very compact, so you can get plenty of hours out of it just by playing it. And granted, sometimes old games would they'd pad the games out a little bit by making them a little too difficult. Like, old games are almost stupid hard in certain ways, and they'd make you start all over when you lost all your lives. I don't want any of that to come back, really. I think that a lot of the advancements that have been made in video games are great. So I'm not saying we need to go backwards. I'm just saying
that's why they got that rewind feature on Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah, dude, that's great. I love that. And I think really it's just we need to not homogenize the gaming industry so much to where every game is Skyrim. Hey, people like Skyrim. That's great. There should be more games like Skyrim. There should be more games like Elden Ring. There should be more games like Tears of the Kingdom. But not every game needs to be that. I mean, there's a Sonic open world game now. I mean, I don't even know if that makes sense. I haven't played it, so maybe it's good, but we just don't need every franchise to be open world. I would just rather them take the mechanics that work, maybe add some cool stuff to it, and just try to make, linear games are still good. There are a lot of really good linear games, and there's nothing wrong with a game being linear. That's just one way of making a game. Not every game has to be open world. Not every game has to be linear. Just a little bit more variety. And I really do think that right now indie games are showing a lot of that promise, like the old video games were, because they have small teams and they just make something they're passionate about and they don't overbloat it. And, they've got a tiny, tiny budget, but they come up with some really imaginative and creative things that are brand new IPs. And that's cool. It's cool to see new ideas grow and flourish. And I think that's why the gaming industry is embracing indie games a lot now. So I sort of hope that as time goes on, maybe these indie games will be more influential and will inspire AAA games to actually try to just do something different and not make the same crap over and over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like with indie games, there's a lot less pressure to try to conform to what has been popular before. You're just trying to do the vision that you want to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have that name recognition. So in order to stand out, you have to make sure that your game stands out based on its mechanics and based on what you do with it. I think one of the issues with AAA gaming is that those games have legacies now. They're legacy franchises, so everybody talks about them. So even whether or not you even have played it, you've probably heard it's a good game or a good franchise, so you'll try it out. But you're not going to do the same thing for an indie game necessarily, unless there's something really unique about it that people are talking about, and then that's where they get you. But anyways, I'm glad we got to have this discussion a little bit, but I think it would be good if we moved on to the main topic of today, which actually has nothing to do with gaming, ironically enough. Today we are talking about, well, it's a book, but we all listen to the audiobook because we're lazy, but it's I'm Glad My Mom Died, the memoir by Jennette McCurdy. And the audiobook version we all listened to, she actually read the whole book herself. And it was honestly a really enjoyable and cathartic experience for me. So whichever one of y'all wants to start, go for it.
I'm glad that her mom is dead too.
Oh, I'm sure Jennette thanks you.
like every like story that she was telling about her mom, I'm just like, oh my god, fuck this lady.
Yeah, she definitely was like a narcissist.
For me, I related a lot, I didn't go through a lot of the same stuff to that extent with my mother that I did, like Jennette did. But for me, there were some similarities. Forcing Christianity. Well, she was a Mormon, so I should say
Right.
religion. Um, Forcing, religion down my throat. Uh, Not exactly calorie counting, but my mom was like, you know, very oh, I don't care if this makes you sick or if this hurts you or if this doesn't make you feel good. You're going to eat this because it's healthy for you. So at the time, we didn't understand that I had what I have now, which is gastroparesis, which I had it back then, just didn't know. And I don't even know if it was discovered back when I was a teenager or adolescent, I should say. I was pretty young. But everything that my mom got, like my mom's always been like an organic, healthy kind of person. Oh, we need to watch what we eat because we don't want to get fat kind of mentality. Uh, so I dealt with that a lot. And
So
then
this book really did speak to you then, Moose. Like
yeah,
genuinely.
yes, and the just the over strictness and so I also kind of help take care of the household, not financially, but just in general. Because my mom was kind of always gone. And then, I was practically raised by my grandma. And then my grandma died. And then it was just me and my brother because my mom would just go stay the night with her husband because they lived separate. I would like cook for me and my brother, and I would do our laundry, and I made sure that we had what we needed for school the next day and stuff. And my brother is my older brother, but
Wow.
we were kind of raised in the man doesn't do that kind of stuff in the house.
Moose, you are doing the woman's job.
Yep, exactly. That's the kind of mentality I grew up with my family.
Yeah, so I mean, it really sounds like your situation with Jennette is very similar, and so the book really goes through a large chunk of her life. I think starting from her sixth birthday up until I think she's like 26 at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and I think her mom dies around the time when I think she's like around age 20 maybe, in that ballpark, 2021, when her mom dies, and her mom dies of cancer, and so her mom is sort of battling off and on with cancer throughout the whole book, at least throughout the majority of it. And so she sort of uses that cancer as a way to just guilt Jennette into just kind of just doing whatever for her. I mean, she guilts her into becoming an actress so that she can live vicariously through her, so that, because she wanted to be an actress, but her parents wouldn't let her. And you can tell there's definitely some, as we'll get into, generational trauma with, her Jennette's grandma clearly kind of abused her mom, and then her mom passed down that abuse down to Jennette, and Jennette's the only daughter, so she's kind of facing the brunt of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way Jennette describes everything in the book is she's so cold and clinical with her descriptions of it. And I think she reads it that way on purpose because you can sense almost like a level of like she's had to detach herself from all this stuff that's happening because it's so painful and traumatic, and every chapter is painful and traumatic. I don't think there's like a single part of the book I can remember. I mean, there's times where she's happy, but I can't remember a time where she like stayed happy or where things were like consistently good ever
Yeah.
throughout any of it. And then her mother, guilts her into basically having an eating disorder. And then even after her mom dies, the eating disorder just persists. And I mean, she's even at the end still dealing with it. I mean, she's definitely is better by the end, but she's still dealing with a lot of it. And, you can just tell that her mom, even though she does love her mom in the book, you can tell though that like the pain her mom put her through is going to live with her for the rest of her life. And the best thing she can do is just try to do anything she can to escape it and process it in the best way she can. And I think it's really cool when someone can take their pain and their trauma and can just turn it into a creative outlet, which she did with this book. And it's nice too that she wrote a book instead of, cause she never wanted to be an actress. So, I mean, we all know her from iCarly, and, she definitely had a lot of fame and a lot of notoriety back when that show was coming out. But it's very clear once her mom died, she was just done with the acting business. And, I mean, I don't blame her.
Fun fact. I met Jennette McCurdy on her 18th birthday in Nashville.
Wow.
And she mentions that in her memoir, that she went to Nashville for her 18th birthday, and that was her first time really being away from her mom. Oh, so you were just oh
shit, I was there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That's wild, dude.
And it was just, for me, it was wow, I remember looking up to her and being a fan of her as Sam on iCarly, and seeing her and then listening to that memoir. Because I remember meeting her, and she was, that fake smile that she said she had. I mean, it looked great. And I was maybe 10, 11. I'll see if I can find the picture for you guys, and I can send it if you ever want to throw it, if you want to throw it up for the YouTube.
Yeah, we can. So it's crazy though, because I do feel maybe subconsciously, I feel whenever I'd watch her on the show though, something about her demeanor always sat with me a little weird. I could never pinpoint it. And then once I heard the audiobook, it all made sense to me, because in some ways, even though you could tell she is having some fun with what she's doing on the show, I always got the impression she kind of looked like she wasn't really wanting to be there.
Right.
And it was always a subconscious thing I noticed, but now I totally can make sense of it. It makes total sense now.
All I could think of in that moment after she mentioned the Nashville trip when she was 18, I was wow, you would have never known. You would have never known that she was depressed. You would have never known that she was going through an eating disorder. You would have never known that she was going through what she was going through in that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you never know what somebody is going through.
I mean, she just seemed just from what I remember, she seemed like this happy-go-lucky gal, was very nice. Now, it was pretty crazy that she just had a bunch of random people at her birthday party. I mean, obviously, I don't think it was her genuine, birthday party. But the reason why we went was because my mom won tickets to go off of a radio show.
Oh, wow.
And, I don't even remember why. It was basically just a meet and greet, but it was her 18th birthday. And they had a cake for her, and we sang happy birthday, and there was a DJ there. And they were just giving away a bunch of, Ugly Doll stuff. And I think I gave that Ugly Doll away. I also had an autographed picture signed by her, and the Ugly Doll was signed. But I think I gave the Ugly Doll away to a friend who was, obsessed with Jennette. And then the picture, no idea where it is. But I do have the picture of her and I on my Facebook. But that's just so, I was listening to the memoir, and she was describing, what she was going through in that time, and how she felt, because that was, during that moment, that was, one of her first moments, really away from her mom. And it's sad that the only way she felt like she was, free was when she was away from her.
There's a saying, never speak ill of the dead, because the dead can't defend themselves. But I feel in this particular case, some people, the world is definitely better off without.
And some people you can't talk ill of until they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have so much power over you. You could tell, even though the death definitely affected Jennette in a lot of negative ways, it really did free her up, because you just see in the remaining chapters after her mom dies, her life does slowly get better. It takes a lot of time still. It's not like instantaneous, but it's like her mom was just this anchor on her that was just dragging her down mentally and emotionally, and was just criticizing her and nitpicking her, and was just destroying her emotionally. I can't imagine where Jennette would be now if her mom was still alive. So, I mean, obviously, like, I don't wish death upon anyone. But I do think that in this particular case, she is definitely better off with her mom, at least not in her life.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way her mom reacted when she, I think, found out that she was in a relationship, and she just assumed it was a sexual relationship. And she just called her a whore and a slut, and just shamed her, and didn't want to talk to her. And she just sent her all these nasty voicemails and emails, and just for finding like a picture of them together.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, and Jennette was like a fully grown adult. I think she was like 18 or 19 when that happened. So it's just insane. Like what she put her through, and you know, her life is definitely going to be easier now without that influence in her life, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know like relatives who have like passed, and like they kind of dragged other people's lives down, that whenever they were gone, like they were actually kind of doing better in life. And it's a very kind of sad truth, you know, because we like to think of, you know, everybody is inherently good, you know? But like that's not necessarily the case with everybody. Some people are just pieces of shit sometimes. And we have to accept that fact. And sometimes it's,
You're not wrong.
and sadly, sometimes it's, you know, the people that you're closest to. I don't know. I found the book to be very, very raw, very real and down to earth, and very, I don't know, no bullshit.
But her mom was a control freak, and she just wanted to control everybody in the family. And it seemed like she was just a domineering presence to everybody that was in their lives. And she just used guilt to control people. And that's not really something you should be doing if you're a parent. Really not something you should be doing in general, but especially if you're a parent and that's your child, because you're going to turn them into people pleasers. And that's definitely what happened with Jennette. I mean, she clearly like dealt with other abusive people in her life because she was kind of a pushover, and that's not her fault. That's because her mom conditioned her to be that way. And that's just such a horrible way to condition your child for like an environment that's as harsh and horrible as Hollywood.
Yeah, there was a silver lining in the book that I really did enjoy, and that was her relationship with Miranda Cosgrove. Like it was very clear in the book that Miranda clearly cared about Jennette, and like kind of understood a little bit of, you know, what she was going through, and clearly wanted to help her. And so just my little public service announcement: if anybody is in a abusive situation, you know, find some good friends, build up a support system. Don't isolate yourself.
Yeah, that's very true.
I was very pleased that she had Miranda. I hate the fact that she had to be secretive about her relationship with Miranda, with her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, like, you know, this she basically had Stockholm syndrome from her mother.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's heartbreaking, because your mother is supposed to be the one who nurtures you and protects you, and is supposed to be the one that you can go to for all of these kinds of needs, and talk about, you know, friends and all this kind of stuff. And she literally had to hide a completely different side of her, because she knew that if she didn't, that her mother would just take a turn for the worst. Like you mentioned earlier, how she called Jennette so many ugly names just because she found out that she was going, or paparazzi leaked that she was on a trip with her boyfriend at the time.
And what's crazy is like she, said that she looked fat in the pictures, and like just out of curiosity, I was like, what did she look like back then? And she looked totally fine.
She's always been pretty skinny.
Imagine teaching your
I don't
child.
ever remember her being overweight.
Exactly.
Not even a teenager yet, not even an adolescent, not like still a child, teaching a child calorie counting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we'll continue more with this topic after we get a commercial break. We'll be right back.
Hi, thank you for calling tech support. We are so glad to have you as one of our valued customers, and we care completely. To get started, say in a few words how I may direct your call.
I need to speak with a representative.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Did you say billing?
What? No, I said I need to speak with a representative.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Did you say main menu?
Huh? No, I need to speak with a representative.
Main menu. Hi, thank you for calling tech support. We are so glad to have you as one of our valued customers, and we care completely. To get started, say in a few words how I may direct...
Representative! A human! Please, for the love of God!
One moment while I transfer you to a representative. Oh, and you didn't have to yell at me. I'm just doing my job.
Was that a real person?
Thank you for calling tech support. My name is Natasha. How can I serve you today?
Oh, thank God. So, I'm having issues
Well,
with...
that's the end of my shift. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye, door.
Son of a bitch!
Tech support, never there to help.
And we're back. So, we've talked a little bit about I'm Glad My Mom Died, the book by Jennette McCurdy. Before we continue, though, I do want to tell you a kind of funny story about this book. So, I used my mom's Amazon account to get this book on Audible, and it was like the free month trial, so I got the book for free.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey mom, can you let me on your Amazon to get this Audible trial? She's like, yeah, sure. And so I download the book, and my mom just like sees the title of the book, and she sends me a screenshot. And she's just like, what?
Bob, is that what it looks like? I swear.
And I was like, no, mom. Like her mom's abusive, and like I don't want you to die, but and then my mom was like, oh yeah, it's cool. I've seen the title. She's like, it looks like a good book. Maybe I'll read it. And I was like, yeah,
She actually low key thinks that it's a plot to kill her.
maybe.
I love how in the picture, on the audio book or in the book in general, it's a picture of her holding the urn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, dude. I just love how tongue in cheek that shit is.
Iconic. Just, hey, here's me and my mom.
So Moose, why don't you go ahead and start? Like, what are your thoughts on like just generational trauma as a whole?
I feel like now that I'm a parent, I feel like it's easier for me to talk about this topic because, at first when I went to talk about this topic, I was only talking about this topic from someone who dealt with trauma with, growing up with divorced parents and a drug addict father and a not so present mother. I mean, she was present, but she wasn't. You know what I mean? It was like she was always working or she was staying the night at her husband's house. And me and my brother, we were over at my grandma's. And we were basically raised by my grandma. Like, it was night and day compared to how my mom treated my brother and how I was treated by my mom. And I don't know if it was because... My mom always told me that it was because I was a girl. And that's why. That was the only reason she had for me. Was I treat you this way because you're a girl. I feel like generational trauma is caused by rules and beliefs. And it turns into generational trauma because it's passed down and it doesn't stop. Because it's like, oh, well, my mama, when I wouldn't eat my dinner, she would make me sit down at the table and I wouldn't be allowed to eat anything else other than what was on that plate. And if I didn't eat, I got sent to my room, and that if I wanted something to eat, she would put that same plate down right in front of me, and I wouldn't get to eat anything until I ate what was on that plate. So there's no such thing as pickiness.
And so basically, you repeat that the thing that, your mom does, to your own kids because you didn't bother to like sit down and question like, hey, maybe the thing that my mom did wasn't the smartest idea.
See, but I got that quick, growing up.
Yeah.
That caught on for me. I was like, the shit that my mom is doing. And what's so freaking crazy is that my mom was even like, a lot of the stuff your granny did to me was not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so then why did I have to go through it too? And it's going to take everything in my power to make sure that I don't do that to my children.
Well, I guess the first step is the fact that you are, aware,
Absolutely.
Because, like, that's the thing is, take Jennette McCurdy, for example. She was not really aware that her mom abused her until her therapist sat down with her and was like, what you experienced was textbook definition abuse.
So that's the same thing I went through as well.
Mm-hmm.
Was having a therapist sit down and be like, no. Like, your mother is supposed to be the one who loves you, not the one who puts you down and verbally abuses you and emotionally abuses you and, makes you feel guilty for feeling the way that you feel or for doing what you do. That's not disrespectful or inappropriate or against her rules.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, she was I was easily grounded over the smallest things. One of them being, if I didn't eat my dinner, or because I had acid reflux really bad, I would get sick a lot after I ate. My mom would make me keep my door open, and I would have to keep the bathroom door open when I went to use the bathroom. Because my mom would tell me, if you go throw up, you're grounded.
Oh my God.
And I remember this was back in 2020 before COVID was announced that it was COVID. And I was in the hospital for my gastroparesis flare up. And like a doctor came into the room because my mom was all pissed off that she had to take me to a hospital in Atlanta. And the doctor came into the room and was like, this is a very serious situation. Her stomach is paralyzed. And if we can't get her to hold down any food in 24 hours, we're going to have to put a tube down her nose. She's very underweight. She's very malnourished. She hasn't had any food in weeks. She's dehydrated. And then my mom just kind of like threw this sob story and this fucking pity party. And was just crying her eyes out in the hospital room. My mom put on a good show in front of people. Oh, my baby, I can't believe she's been going through all this pain and I just didn't realize it. But once we were discharged and on our way home, she was immediately pissed off about the Atlanta traffic and how she had to drive me all the way to Atlanta.
Like, Atlanta traffic does suck ass, but, like,
That's
is not an
not my
appropriate
fault.
way to behave. No.
That's not my fault.
Moose,
That's
how
what I'm
dare you
saying.
almost die, dude? How dare you?
Yeah, right.
How dare you do that to that poor woman, Moose? What the f***?
I know. And, there's probably going to be some people who are like, oh, well, you're not being considerate of her feelings because she probably was genuinely upset that she's just now finding out that her daughter was almost dead. No. Because I had been dealing with these problems for over 10 years, and she did nothing. She took me to get an ultrasound done on my gallbladder, which, come to find out, was nothing. I speculate that they didn't even check my gallbladder. I always thought that they checked to see if I was pregnant or not, but I could be wrong. Yeah, no, I mean, she didn't really do anything. She took me to one doctor and they were like, yeah, she's got acid reflux. There was no specialists involved. Was no wondering why aren't the medicines working. You know what I mean? It was just, well, I don't know what to do. Sorry. And that's always her mentality. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. Too bad. Or when I would be depressed because I was getting bullied in school. In middle school, I would cry every day. Mom, I do not want to go to this school. They are so mean to me. They literally tell me to kill myself. They literally tell me to slit my wrists. Like, dude, this is the craziest stuff. Trigger warning, by the way. I'm very sorry. And my mom would be like, Lauren, there are children in Africa who would love to be in your situation.
Oh my God. No. No one wants to be told that.
I'll never forget that to this day. My mom was dropping me off. She drove me to school that day because she thought that it would make me feel better. And I was crying my eyes out. I said, Mom, I do not want to go in that school. I said, going into that school is the reason for my depression. And she said, Lauren, there are children who are suffering with nothing in Africa that would love to be in your position right now. She said, so you're going to go in that school and you're going to have a good day.
Damn.
That's wow.
My mom was like, oh, you don't want to go to church? You can't live in this house. And I was like, word.
Oh my God. What the hell, dude?
Damn. Well, I had a normal relationship with my parents.
And that's amazing. See, I mean, yeah, there's some times where I tell people, I'm like, yeah, I'm jealous of that. Like, I envy you. But I stopped being like that. Now I'm like, you know what? That's amazing. Like, I'm happy that you had that kind of relationship with your mother.
Yeah, so like, yeah, when it comes to, Jennette's, whole story, it's like I can't relate to that, but like at the same time, it was like eye-opening, you know what I mean?
It also makes you go, oh my God, like what the hell?
Yeah, like I'm sitting over here moping over my life. Meanwhile, there's, kids in Africa.
True. There's always kids in Africa,
That's always my mom's. That was always my mom's go-to. There are children in Africa who are suffering.
Yeah, something that I've noticed that a lot of people will do is whenever somebody will start complaining about something, the like default is like, well, somebody's always got it worse than you. And it's like, yeah, but like I still got a problem and I want it solved.
The one that's worse than that though is, oh, you think you've got it bad? I've got it way worse. Like when you just turn it into being about you.
My mom's gonna fucking find this podcast and she's gonna be like, why would you tell all those lies about me?
Moose, your mom is gonna find this podcast and she's gonna ground you.
Why would you tell all of those lies about me? There are children in Africa who would have loved to have been in my position.
Oh, geez, fellers. I don't want to get grounded again.
Hey, fellers.
Butters over here.
I related to Butters so much. I would literally cry.
That's amazing.
Moose, you're grounded.
Butters.
Butters, you're grounded again.
Oh, hamburgers.
Oh, hamburgers.
Moose, now I know why you love South Park so much, dude.
Dude. No.
Poor Butters. Dude, Moose, I just want to say, from my heart, and I think Higgs feels the same way, we love you, dude. You're our friend, and we're here anytime you want to vent or talk about anything, dude. Because, I mean, look, my parents got divorced, and I mean, I dealt with that, and that was hard. And
how old were you when your parents got divorced?
I was, I think, 15 or 16. It was like early high school, but they had been separated for a little while too.
See, that had to have been hard.
It was rough. Yeah, because I was homeschooled up until high school, so I grew up in like almost like the nuclear family that we talk about, from like the 1950s. We're like this like Catholic family, homeschool, I was very sheltered. And then my parents got divorced and I went to public school, and I learned that the world is not as happy-go-lucky of a place as I thought it was. And, hey, we live, we learn, we deal with trauma. But at the end of the day, like, that's what therapy's for. That's what friends are for. You got to find that support group. And, I like to think in some ways that this podcast can be like that for, us and for anybody listening, just so people know that, like, they're not going through it alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, find yourself a Miranda Cosgrove. Maybe not actual Miranda Cosgrove.
It doesn't
Or
even
maybe.
have
She
to
might be
be.
cool.
It doesn't even have to be a Miranda Cosgrove. Coping skills. Find a therapist. Find something that's like a hobby that brings you joy, that helps, like make it your therapy.
Don't pursue a career if your parents are forcing you to. I mean, they might force you to, but like, when you're old enough, get out of that shit. Like,
Absolutely.
you're never gonna love a profession if it's being forced down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
If it didn't come from something organic that you were passionate about and that you wanted to do anyways, it's just never gonna work out. Jennette's case is very unique in that she made it big and was huge, like as an actress on Nickelodeon. But like, she didn't even like acting.
Oh.
Like, that's how good of an actress she was. She didn't even like it, and she just wanted to make her mom happy, and that's almost in a way powerful to show how much she loved her mom that she did that. But that's not an okay way. That's not a good way to love someone. That your love for them forces you to do things you don't want to do, and forces you to go down a career path where you get taken advantage of, as she was as an actress in Hollywood, for Nickelodeon, which, they offered her some money so she wouldn't talk about some things, and she turned it down, which was cool.
I was just about to say, screw Dan Schneider.
Oh, yeah.
The creator.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
the creator.
They refer
Because
to him as the creator.
Nickelodeon literally gave her hush money to not talk about him.
Yeah, the thing about him is when he's around, there's evil afoot.
Evil!
Or there's just feet in general.
Oh!
That's what I was trying to be clever, Moose, but thank you.
No, I know. I caught the joke.
To be fair, I didn't catch it.
What'd you say? Oh, man. I love you, motherfuckers.
I love you too,
man.
buddy.
Another thing about generational trauma is that you can be the change. If you're thinking about having kids one day, or if you already have kids, and you have noticed something that is not okay, that your parents did to you, that you don't want to bring to them, you can be the change. You can stop it. Another thing that is dealt with generational trauma is bullying your children. Feeding them negativity to make them have low self-esteem. That's a big generational trauma thing.
One thing too I do want to touch on as well is if you're doing something and your kid pushes back on you, and say it's something that your parents did to you and maybe you didn't realize that it wasn't okay, but if your kid pushes back on that and says, "Oh, I don't like that," or "That hurts my feelings," or you should,
accept it.
Sometimes people can be sensitive, sure, but like, listen, I feel like there's just so much of like, these kids nowadays are pussies. They can't handle it. Such snowflakes. They're so much more sensitive nowadays. And it's like, yeah, people can be sensitive, but most of the time when people are being sensitive, it's because something is bothering them. And at the very least, you at least owe it to your child to hear them out and maybe try to rethink, like, was it okay what my parents did to me? Is it okay if I do that to my kids? I don't know. Just be mindful,
Yeah, this might seem a bit anecdotal, but something that I've noticed in kids lately is they do seem a lot more open to kind of talk when something is bothering them. But like, I remember growing up and kind of always trying to have this attitude of like, oh, I'm a good kid. I don't ask for a lot. And so because of that, I was quiet a lot of the times, and if something was bothering me, I didn't speak up and say it because I felt like, oh, I'm a kid. The adults know best. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Dude, I felt the exact same way growing up.
And so I do like the fact that it seems that kids nowadays are given the tools to express that better.
Yeah. I mean, it's better to be true to who you are and be honest with people, because nothing is ever going to change for the positive if you don't address the things that bother you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like one of the main problems is that mental health issues weren't allowed to be a thing. You just had to suck it up. You had to drink, smoke you a cigarette, or drink your problems like every other adult and move on.
That's the plot to BoJack Horseman.
Right, exactly. You're not allowed to have mental health issues. And so they're trying to pass that down. But we're not doing that anymore. Like, it's okay if you're... High school's hard. Middle school's hard. Elementary school's hard.
Also, when you're a kid and you have problems, those problems are hard because it's the first time you ever deal with them in your life.
And they're big.
Yeah.
Adults have been through a lot more shit. So, of course, kid problems seem small, but to that kid, that problem, that bully in their class, that's the biggest problem of their life so far. And you got to help them navigate that shit.
I will add in that I am not the perfect mother. I'm not. There are days where I yell to the top of my lungs at my 2-year-old because I've asked nicely 27 times and I get frustrated. Okay. But at the end of the day, I hug her, I kiss her, I tell her I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I'm trying to be better. Because that's what I went through. And I'm trying not to bring that to her. When it slips out of me, and that's what I do, when I yell at my daughter and I scream at her because she's frustrated me after I've told her, multiple times, I just have to remind myself, this is not what you want to do. And the mom guilt. Oh, the mom guilt's so bad. I feel like such a piece of crap. I hold her, I kiss her, I tell her I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it, I was frustrated, I was angry. And she asks me if I'm okay. And I say, yes, baby, I'm okay. And we give each other a kiss. And I talk to her and I tell her how I'm feeling. And she can't talk much, obviously. But I just have to remind myself, she doesn't understand. Like, I have to get it through my brain that I have to teach her. Over and over and over again. Until she gets it. She doesn't understand, and it's my job. So my frustration is all, I gotta have more patience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the perfect mom. But
you are a good mom, dude. You are a good mom.
Thank you. But I don't feel like a good mom whenever I yell at her. But Micah, he just tells me, he says, are you doing a better job than your parents? And I'd say, I'd like to think so. Yeah, I think I am. He says, then that's all that matters.
Yep. That's all any of us can really hope for.
That's true.
I was just going to say, at the end of the day, my children are loved, my children are fed, my children are clothed, my children are nurtured. I make sure that they have everything that they need. And when they're older and they go through the situations that I went through, if it happens, or if they go through some of the situations Micah goes through, they will not get the same response I got.
And because you've given them this freedom, one day in 20 years, they can go on a podcast and be like, wow, my mom's a bitch.
Yep. And I think I'd be okay with it, because I'd be like, you know what? You were a bitch too.
Well, on that note, thank y'all for a great conversation. And we'll see everybody next time on the next episode of Art Equals Life. I'm your host, JT Dubs.
And I am co-host Moose.
I'm Higgs.
And if you want to be a parent, good luck. If you don't want to be a parent, wrap that shit up. Peace out, y'all. Son of a bitch! No, I'm gonna just do a bunch of them. Son of a bitch! 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 Son of a fucking bitch! Son of a bitch! Son of a bitch! Son of a bitch! Son of a bitch!
Like to see Mark Wahlberg's penis.